Hi, my name is Emily Sheedy. I'm a new Media Lab student, and today we have a guest to talk about our topic. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ken Hackler. I'm program director and faculty for the Automated Technology program. We do robotics, automated equipment, and stuff like that.
Cool. Do you know why we asked you here today?
I guess you wanted to talk about autism
Yes, we
and
did.
how it affects people. How do we work with them at the college?
What is your connection to autism?
I have a 23-year-old son with autism. He was diagnosed at 3 years old, so I've had 20 years of experience firsthand. So he was considered pretty low functioning when we was first diagnosed, and low functioning a lot of times is no verbal skills. So he actually was late onset, which means he wasn't autistic at birth. Developed normally a little slightly slower, but then in about age 2.5, he fell off a cliff and went to having no eye contact and maybe 5 to 10 words after having hundreds of words of well, not hundreds, over 100 words of vocabulary at that point. And so it kind of started our journey with autism, and from early intervention, which is a huge thing to get them working with professionals, to get them out of their because they almost go into a cave where they don't want to work with other people, they don't want to respond, they don't want to interact. And so we did an early intervention program that was super expensive at the time, and basically one-on-one for a number of years. And then, kind of jumping forward, he started it in the Maricopa Community College system 4 years ago, and primarily at Paradise Valley because that's up where we live at, but he's also taking classes here at Mesa. He just finished a couple classes last few semesters, and then he just transitioned to ASU. This is his first semester at Arizona State at the Polytech campus.
Oh, okay. I know you work here too. Do you have any connections to education at all, or ever had any students with autism?
I have not had students with autism, but working with my son through the disability resource centers and stuff like that. So even if I started teaching at the Maricopa colleges about 2 years ago. So my son, like I mentioned, had been in schools for the last 4 years at Maricopa. And so we, one of the first things we did was meet with the Disability Resource Center, and they help the students get accommodations. So the students still have to do the same work. It's not like you can give them less work, but they can get additional test time. They can have private areas, get preferred seating. They can get additional time for assignments if necessary. A lot of that stuff all depends on the severity of where they're at and the accommodation they ask for. They can get note takers. So I do have, I haven't personally had any student with a disability in my classes, but one of my other classes that we actually had a student that was deaf, and they brought in somebody to sign for them while he was taking the class. It was actually for soldering semiconductors.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of resources to support anybody that has struggles. But like I said, with my son having autism, we did a lot of accommodations. And him just transferring to ASU, they have a similar program too, where he's going to get additional. They normally give you like 50% more time on quizzes and tests and stuff like that. Because they still have to do the same work because you can't let somebody do less work. That's not what the intent is. It's just to help them be successful and give them additional support.
Did they have the same accommodations in high school, or is this like freshly new for him?
No, they have accommodations in high school too. So that's
Okay.
how we were familiar with it. Actually, they have accommodations all the way starting from when they're young. My son originally was in because he was by the time he got to kindergarten, we had done a lot of intervention, a lot of different therapies. And so he was in more of a class that for children who had speech issues.
Mhm.
And then he would go into typical classrooms, as they call it, the typical and non-typical, right? So we get all these terms that, of course, they don't like to hear.
Yeah.
So it's like when we finally got to a point where we were going to tell him he had autism, because we never really had that conversation until he was about 7, 8 years old, and we found a book, and it kind of compared because he loves computers, and it compared him having a different operating system. So just like one computer's got iOS or it's got Windows or something like that, it was talking about how his operating system worked differently. He viewed the world differently. Struggles with social skills, reading comprehension. But when he was young, he didn't understand what an idiom was I didn't even know what an idiom meant, but it's something like the apple of your eye or raining cats and dogs. If you said it's raining cats and dogs, he would walk outside and look up in the air and see where the cats and dogs were coming.
Yeah, very literal.
Very literal. And then when they, go to read a book, and if a dog is talking, they don't. He didn't understand why dogs can't talk. That doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that they face in education, and we as faculty, like I said, I've been on the parent side, but I've since we have guardianship, I'm able to talk with the instructors, and when he struggles, we'll have meetings with the instructors, and he was doing IT classes here, and two of the instructors were super helpful and spent extra time with him. And it's not that he couldn't learn; he just needed to look at things a little differently than the atypical person.
Yeah, just a little extra help.
Mm-hmm.
What are some benefits that students with autism bring into education, in your opinion?
Well, when they love something, they love it. I mean, so if you're fortunate to get somebody with autism that really enjoys what you're teaching,
Mm-hmm.
they're very passionate. You almost have to throttle them back. My son, he really loves elevators and escalators. You can go on YouTube and he's posted all kinds of, yeah. And there's a bunch of people out there that love the same thing. It's kind of interesting. So, but I think that's what they can really benefit. Also, they can challenge you as an instructor faculty to bring out somebody's personality, to get them to speak more, to be engaged more, because they will have a tendency to kind of pull back
Mm-hmm.
unless they're super passionate about it. So, but they bring a different perspective too than everybody else, and they bring things up that a lot of us don't think about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's super beneficial from that aspect.
Yeah, I think that's what education is all about, is being able to teach everybody and give everyone a chance to learn. What can faculty learn from students with autism, in your opinion?
Well, I think what I was just speaking
Yeah.
about it can challenge you to look at things in a different way, to try different avenues to get people to be successful. Primarily, you're going to have a struggle getting them engaged as often, or to speak up, or to ask questions. So, how do you put them in group projects? How do you get them to participate? Which a lot of typical people have that same issue too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but it brings a challenge to organize the classroom differently. To sometimes, like the IT faculty did, to spend some extra time, and then it can help you tweak your presentations, your delivery to cover all different types of learning skills,
Mm-hmm.
because not all of us learn the same way, whether we have autism or not, right?
Yeah, exactly. What are some struggles that students with autism deal with, and how do you think that they should be addressed?
Back to the group, working in a group, they are not going to, like my son, a lot of, not all, but speaking from my son's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
unless the instructor organizes group projects or get them working together, he won't do that. And so he misses out on a lot of experiences from other people, anything from friendships to he tries to do everything on his own versus
Mm-hmm.
trying to. I mean, because a lot of us, when we were going to school, we get study groups, right? We try to get with people that have similar skills, or maybe somebody's higher level in one class, not the other, and we would do that. So they will not reach out and do that. So I think any faculty who has somebody with autism, or you just have somebody who hasn't even asked for some disability support, because I get students in my classes that struggle, and I try to put them. And I've got age groups all over that. I got people from 50 years old down to 18 years old in my classroom, because some people are coming back, some people come right out of high school. So I have people that have experience in the industry, and I will take anybody who's struggling and match them up, and give the opportunity for somebody with more experience to support them. Not that I'm trying to get them to do my job, but
Mm-hmm.
my labs get very busy, and I'm jumping around, and I don't have the time to help every single student, every minute of the time.
Mm-hmm. Socially, are there any struggles that he has faced that you want to address?
Yeah, it's the whole social skills. My son really doesn't have friends, so
Mm-hmm.
we hang out all the time, and which I enjoy the company, but I'm super social, super outgoing. I'm like over the top outgoing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to see him, not have that opportunity to have the friendships and things like that. So we try a lot of different things with trying to get him into different programs, doing other type of activities. So I think the more you can get them engaged with other people and get friendships, the better off they'll be. It's ironic because anybody who has a low functioning, so low functioning is considered nonverbal, no eye contact, probably will never move out of the house. They look at people like us and have a high functioning child and think, oh, you got it made, right? But he never had a girlfriend. He's never been on a date. There's a lot of things he hasn't experienced at 23 years old, and and they uh, and they can struggle too because we've known people that have high functioning uh, autistic as they become an adult who have had a lot of social issues, even up to suicide because of the fact that they know what they're missing, but
Mhm.
they don't know how to get it. Whereas
Yeah.
somebody's very low functioning, they don't see the world that way. They just it's right there, and whatever their parents are helping them with. So it's none of us have it easy. There's different
Mhm.
struggles for all of us. So I wish I could fix that piece. I love the way he thinks about things sometimes because it is different. But that's the only piece I would really fix about him is that he could have friendships a lot easier because he struggles keeping up with the conversations. You know how we jump around conversations, and
Mhm.
he'll be on 3 conversations behind, and somebody his age 23, they're like, he starts talking about something you already moved past, and so they don't want to talk to him, right? So those are some of the things I think that I wish I knew how to fix it.
Do you think that there's ever been, and not even just with autism, but with other disabilities that you have seen in the past, a problem with bullying?
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, we had always done a lot of natural things, and finally had to put my son on medication in high school. So the people who used to stick up for him once you hit high school, they're
Mhm.
worried about being had that stigma that they're hanging out with the weird kid or the stuff like that. So it's his sophomore junior was really bad. A lot of bullying, and you still see it. I mean, people will go out. I get some jerk going, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" Because he has a lot of tics.
Mhm.
You got a problem? I mean, these are adults,
Yeah.
so it's unfortunately it's inherent in our society, and another thing wish you could fix, right?
Mhm. Do you wish that like schools educated people more on people with that disability or just disabilities in
Well,
general?
we need to because when my son was diagnosed, it was like 1 in 5,000. Now they say it's down to 1 to I think 250. It might even be lower than that.
Mhm.
Some form on the spectrum, right? Because it's a huge wide spectrum. Anything to Asperger, which is considered the highest functioning. It actually used to not even be considered ASD, autism spectrum disorder, uh, but they've kind of brought that under the umbrella also. So we got to do something because the sheer cost. Because my son gets state benefits, they're actually his college is actually being paid for through
Oh, okay.
vocational rehabilitation, which is great, right? But
Yeah.
with how are we going to pay for all that? Why if the sheer numbers of people with autism are like that, you know, we need to address something. We need to figure out a root cause because you're going to have multiple generations of people with these characteristics that struggle to be successful, and they become adults, and then what's going to happen to them after their parents pass away, and that's some of the concerns we have too, right?
Mhm.
What's happening next?
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to this interview?
Well, I think it's great that you're bringing this up, not just for people with autism, anybody who
Mhm.
has disabilities that needs additional support. We need to understand that they offer great assets, and we need to help them be successful along with trying to figure out why we're having these huge numbers, right? So it's a multi-pronged approach, but for us here and at the college level at Mesa, we need to support all students with disabilities, try to understand, educate more, and just raise their awareness and bring out the best in everybody. My program has zero barrier to entrance. They don't have to take math, they don't have to take English tests, they have nothing. They can come right in. And I've got people who are 40, 50 years old that I have to reteach or they knew 3 element algebra because that's the most complex we do with Ohm's laws and stuff like that. So I mean, even though haven't had anybody identified as having a disability in my class, we're constantly working, myself and the other faculty, with people that struggle. And so I just pull them one to one. I don't talk about what their issues are. I don't anything like that. I just say, I know you're struggling. What has been successful for you in the past? These are some things that I've tried. I have a son with autism, and I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying we've had to find so many different ways to approach learning styles from working with him. So I just go, I don't worry about that because I don't ask them questions if they have issues or anything. I just go directly to them and start working with them and ask them questions and that how have they been successful in the past, and if they haven't, they say I've never been successful. Then I try to look at different strategies. So even though I teach a very a technical program, I've started integrating Dr. McGuire. You feel Dr. McGuire, who does he uses Bloom's taxonomy and a lot of different learning styles, how you things. And I do a presentation at the start of the 100 level classes I have for all the classes to talk about some different strategies for reading comprehension, for different things like that. So I started incorporating that a year ago just to try to give them some additional resources and stuff like that, because I know 50% of my students are going to struggle, even though none of them have autism or have a disability. They've coming back, or they're doing the program because it has zero barrier to entry and has a huge upside in salary. I mean, like huge potential in salary for the program.
So I did have a couple more questions then, kind of outside of the education topic. Are there any rights just in general that you think should be in place for people with autism or just disabilities in general that aren't already?
Well, we've got all the federal requirements, and accessibility, and that you have to make accommodations, but you can't fix people making judgments. I don't know how we can legislate that. So it's interesting. My son just had to do a career fair online. He's taken it's kind of a cool class. It's a 1-credit class. It's transitioning. It's when you're a transfer student. So take a 1-credit class and kind of goes through about everything about ASU and then the struggles you may have and how to go get support. And he had to do an online career fair. And we looked at all the companies that were going to be in there, and 2 of them specifically had internships. And so he broke out on a one-on-one. And like I said, my son has a lot of tics and facial stuff. And both of the companies said, "Oh, I don't think we have any right now. I'll get back to you." So I know that they made a judgment based upon, because they specifically stated that they had internships available in IT.
Yeah.
He's not looking for one this summer. It's just he had to write a paper about the process to start learning. So I don't know what you can do to legislate. I mean, we've got pretty much everything on the books as far as supporting disabilities, but it's what we talked about earlier. It's education, awareness, getting people to think differently about people who have any type of disability, and so.
And also making it less of a taboo topic, like it's a very normal thing, a very common thing,
Yeah,
especially in education.
Kind of like when I got COVID, like in October 2020, it was like everybody acted like you had some disease and you did
I
something
know.
wrong, right?
Like
Because I was one of the early people.
choking on water, and I didn't want to like cough and scare people.
I know. So it's people are quick to judge. I mean, we all have that. We all have our prejudices and judgments, and it's based upon where we come from and what we do. But we've got to, we have to continue to educate ourselves or educate others.
Yeah, and make known that our differences, like there's so many differences between people, and because we're so judgmental of it, is because we're not used to it and we're not like aware that it is very common.
Yep.
My name is Emilie Sheedy. I'm a new student in Media Lab, and we like to give our guest the last word. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I appreciate the time and trying to expand awareness on autism and disabilities, and anything that we can do to, as we just discussed, and try to educate people, stop them from being so judgmental, and try to bring out the best in them, or that little slice of genius that we talked about earlier. Thanks again.
Thank you for your time.